What's up everybody, it's me E-Man from E-Man's Movie Reviews, and today we're going to review Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald. Alright, let's jump right into a quick intro. Grindelwald has escaped custody and is gathering his followers to set up his master plan to take over the world. Newt Scamander is called in by Dumbledore to help stop Grindelwald before it's all too late. Alright, enough of that, let's get right into the good.
The good.
As one could expect from any Harry Potter related movie, the visual effects in this film were done very well. Despite seeing so many of these similar special effects that replicate the magic powers of the wizards in the previous films, you still can't help but to feel a little bit enchanted with what you'll see on the screen. As the title of the film suggests, the magical beasts in this film are truly fantastic and a treat to see. Speaking of the beasts, Newt's interactions with them was also a nice little highlight. If you saw the previous film, then you'll know that Newt's bond with the magical beast is a charming and warm touch for the franchise. It's also interesting to see how he was able to manage the beast in different ways, not to mention the fact that some of his tactics were a bit comical as well. I think one thing that helps this movie is just how much it caters to the fans of the franchise, especially the book readers of the Potterverse. There are a number of name drops and character cameos and fun little Easter eggs that fans can engage with. And there were a number of really good performances throughout this movie. Johnny Depp as Grindelwald really worked as being a much more complex villain. Rather than just being a straightforward evil force of nature like Voldemort, it was refreshing to see his character be much more calculating, persuasive, and manipulative. He was evil just in a different way, but at the same time almost a little relatable. Now Jude Law as Dumbledore was a really good fit for the role, but it felt like we didn't truly get enough of his character. Maybe, of course, we'll get more in the next film. I think more so the supporting cast ended up carrying this entire movie. Zoe Kravitz probably had one of her strongest performances as of late in this movie. Her character had a range of emotional drama and trauma to deal with, and Kravitz was able to execute them flawlessly. I think that Queenie and Jacob's relationship was probably one of the more compelling stories in the movie. Jacob was not only great as the comic relief, but he shared really good chemistry with Alison Sudol's character Queenie. I certainly want to see how that dynamic develops in the future. Okay, enough of that, let's get right into the bad.
The bad.
Now, there are a couple of issues that I have with this movie, and one of the primary ones really deals more so with the direction that this film is trying to take. Coming into this sequel, there's a pretty dark shift in terms of the tone compared to its predecessor. All the things that you may have enjoyed in the previous Fantastic Beasts that you might have really liked have been minimized in this sequel. Now, the problem with the shifting of the tone is that it's hard to tell what this movie tries to be at times. We go from a family-friendly tone with the magical beast to a really dark tone that might not actually be so suitable for young children. Newt feels less and less important in the film, or even just the main plot itself. Now, I could see if he were there to serve as, let's just say, the audience's eyes, for example, and like we would just experience the entire film through him. However, that's just not the case. With all the side stories that happen with the other characters, Newt is kind of lost in the mix. Dare I say, you might not even really care about his character either, because more times than not, he just feels like he's a filler in the entire story. All those fun little moments that we get to see him dealing with the magical beast feel incredibly minor compared to the multiple other plots that are going on. And by the way, the plot twists in this movie, they felt pretty underwhelming. Unless you're an avid reader of all these Harry Potter-like books, or if you just so happen to have done a marathon rewatch of all the Potter films and the previous Fantastic Beasts movie, many of the surprise revelations will probably seem mediocre at best. I think that both the writing and the directing of this movie may have taken for granted that there's been a lot of time in between all these movies. So by taking so many references that rely on previous knowledge of the Potterverse and or the previous movies in general, it feels as though general audiences might feel a little bit excluded. Most times, movies that are a part of a large franchise try to help the audience a little bit in terms of jogging their memories, or they'll help a little bit more with connecting some of the dots. While I don't think that this film necessarily needed to handhold you the entire way, I do think that this sequel created a little bit too much work on the part of audiences to really remember and catch everything. I think one of the biggest detriments to this movie, besides like the weak plot points and stuff, is the slow pacing of it. This movie clocks in at 2 hours and 14 minutes long, but it feels incredibly longer in certain points of the movie. Most of this comes from these various side stories and long expositions that you probably weren't looking for heading into this film. The introductory scenes were great and captivating, but the majority of the middle was a slow drag. Thankfully, the few action and sequences and special effects were sprinkled throughout the movie to actually wake me up whenever I started dozing off. Okay, enough of that, let's get right into the reason.
The reason.
Alright, now let me give you guys full disclosure. I have not read any of the Harry Potter books. I have only watched all the Harry Potter movies whenever they came out in the theaters. I've also only watched Fantastic Beasts, and I have not read the book for that either. I also did not rewatch any of those previous movies before heading into this film. So you can take all of that into account in terms of how I approach this movie, because I understand that might also be the story for other people. Now, with all that said, Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald falls short of being a satisfactory standalone film. While there are reportedly 5 films in total for this Fantastic Beasts franchise, this movie felt like a long transitional film. Despite not being an avid reader of the franchise, I, like maybe others, feel a bit trapped into this whole franchise. After watching all the Harry Potter films and now these 2 Fantastic Beasts movies, you just kind of feel too invested to give up on the whole thing now. Had it not been for the entire Potterverse, I'd be hard pressed to believe that the interest from the sequel would make people want to see what happens next. At this point, the only thing I can think that's worth looking forward to is if we get to see Jude Law's Dumbledore be much more prominently featured. I mean, seriously, Newt is no longer a major interest, and the only thing that could really keep my interest for another 3 movies is if we get to see some major wizard battles or something happen. So when it comes to the rating for Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald, I've got to give it a 6.5 out of 10. Now, if you were like me, and let's just say you'd never read the Harry Potter books, and you only watched all these movies, then I would recommend watching like some sort of YouTube recap video just to kind of give you a refresher before you walk into this movie. If you have the time, maybe you might want to watch all 7, 8 movies or whatever. Or if you happen to have a friend of yours that is a really big Harry Potter fan and did read all the books, you might want to invite them to come watch the movie with you. Now, after you watch the movie, you might actually want to go back to YouTube and find some video that does one of those endings explained for this movie. And hopefully it'll clear up some things that I thought that this movie did a poor job of communicating. Again, I don't think it's a really good sign for any movie to really have the audience do that much legwork just to either watch the movie or to understand the end of it, but here we are. So those are my thoughts on this Fantastic Beasts sequel, but I'm more interested in what you have to think about it. If you happen to be a huge Harry Potter fan and you did go see this movie, let me know what you thought about it, because there's a very good chance it might be very different than my perspective. If you happen to be like me and you only watch the movies, let me know what you thought about the movie as well. Let me know in the comments down below, because I'm very interested to see how other people took this movie. I always appreciate you guys taking the time to hang out with me and watch these videos. And if you got some time, please, by all means, go check out some of my other ones too. If you're new to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. I've got more reviews and videos to do for you all, and until next time, I'll see you guys later.